Hey guys, welcome back to my channel for another DIY home makeover video. I recently took a work trip to meet another YouTube mama and one of my very best friends, Whitney P, and while we were together, we decided to film this DIY home office makeover on a budget. I'll be transforming Whitney's home office space in this office DIY and sharing affordable DIY office wall decorating ideas to achieve a modern farmhouse look. We'll be repurposing old furniture, building brand new DIY furniture, and DIY decor to share tons of decorating ideas for when you are decorating on a budget. We did this entire home office makeover in only one day, so everything I'll be sharing with you is pretty quick and easy if you are wanting to use these ideas in your own home. Make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and turn on your notification bell for more DIY makeovers. But now let's start this makeover by clearing everything out of the room so that we can get a clear picture of the space and what we have to work with. So I actually found Whitney's YouTube channel when I first started, probably a month after I uploaded my first video, and I reached out to her and we became very fast friends, and we have grown very close over this past year. We've collabed together in a couple of videos, but it was just so cool to be able to meet her in person and actually film together in person. We did this DIY makeover for my channel, but we also did a complete disaster cleaning video on her channel. So when you are done watching this, definitely make sure that you go check that out over on her channel. I will leave all of the links in the description box for you guys. But now that we've got this room cleared, we're going to start on repurposing some furniture. So I just wiped down that old bookcase that she had, and we're going to use this Waverly white chalk paint, and we are going to chalk paint this thing to make it look like a completely new piece and to really go along with the aesthetic that we are looking for. This little bookcase was actually that tall bookcase that you saw the guys take out of the office space before, and actually when I asked Derek to move it, the bottom half of it just completely came apart as soon as it was lifted. So we ended up with this smaller one, and that was completely fine. It ended up working out even better than we could have expected, but we saved a ton of money by just shopping her home and also using chalk paint that she already had on hand to repurpose this and make it suit our needs. That's actually a great tip I tell you guys in every single one of these DIY makeover videos. You should always shop your home first and see what you can transform before you go looking to buy anything new. A little tip for when you are doing DIYs with chalk paint, try to work with thin layers of paint and don't be afraid to have to go back over and do multiple layers. That will give you a much better finished look than if you try and glob it all on at one time. We ended up doing 2 layers of paint and 1 layer of wax for this bookcase. So here is one coat of the chalk paint on this little like bookshelf cabinet, and clearly it's looking rough, but that's okay. We'll do a second coat and then it will look perfect. And I think what we're gonna do is get a peel and stick like wallpaper stuff to cover this in the back in kind of like a neutral pattern or whatever. We'll see what we find. Probably something from like the dollar store or Walmart to make it super affordable, but yeah, so this is what it's looking like now, and I'll show you when we have 2 coats on. While we waited for that first coat to dry, I just used this Krylon metallic oil rubbed bronze spray paint to transform the lamp that they already had in that room. Now, Whitney had expressed to me how she wasn't the biggest fan of this silver nickel finish to begin with, but it definitely did not fit with the modern farmhouse aesthetic that we were looking to achieve. So we picked up this $4 can of spray paint and we were able to make this work without having to go out and buy a completely new light fixture or lamp. Whitney's husband, Tim, was so skeptical when we told him we were going to spray paint this, but by the end, it looked like a brand new piece, and he secretly loved it. We also used this satin white spray paint to transform a photo frame that we had picked up on clearance at Hobby Lobby. It was in a warm wood tone and we just wanted it to be more modern, so we decided to spray paint it with that white, and it worked out really well for us. We actually got this as a part of the spring clearance, but it is super neutral and can work year round, so we were able to save a ton of money getting it 75% off, and even though it's technically seasonal decor, it will definitely work all year long. We used that same can of spray paint to change up this office chair that we got from Target. I think it was actually a dining room chair, but it worked really well for the office and the aesthetic we were going for, so we just took off the legs and spray painted them white to give it a more modern farmhouse feel. We ended up using this flat black and also a French cream spray paint that Whitney already had in her garage to change up a couple of glass jars that we picked up as a part of the spring clearance at Hobby Lobby. And this is another great tip, you guys. You can always find neutral year-round decor in the seasonal clearance, so don't be afraid to look there and don't be afraid to spray paint anything you need. Okay guys, here is the shelf with the second coat of paint, and it is so pretty. I also put that peel and stick contact paper on the back, and I really like the way that it turned out. It's like a light gray, just simple pattern here, very neutral, but just it adds a little something to give it some character. And I think Whitney did a great job. She did the second coat of paint, and she did a great job. She also sealed it with a wax that I can show you guys as well. And I'll show you the peel and stick paper that we used. So here is the wax that she put on top to seal it. It's just clear, and it's the same brand as the chalk paint. It worked really well. It took like no time at all to put it on. And then this is the liner that we used. It's like shelf liner, but just this brand. And it was only a couple of dollars for the roll, and we still have so much of it left. But here's the roll here. And then you see on the back, you just peel it off and it sticks. So we took the backing off and then reattached it just with a staple gun. But if you are looking for any of these things, go ahead and check out my Amazon storefront. I will link as many of these items, including the staple gun, as I possibly can for you guys, in case you're wanting to do this little DIY project. At the last minute, I decided that I wanted to try to build a DIY bench to go under the window in the room for the office. So we went out to Lowe's and we got a 2x8x10 and then also a couple of 2x4s. The Lowe's saw was down though, so we couldn't get them to make our cuts for us. But thankfully, Whitney's husband Tim agreed to do all of our cutting and sanding. So we cut down the 2x8 to 2 5-foot pieces, and we did 4 10-inch cuts and 4 18-inch cuts of the 2x4s. To sand everything down, Tim first started with a 50 grit sandpaper to really get out all of the nicks and the rough edges, and then he went to a 120 grit and then finished it off with a 220 grit. And taking this extra time to sand things properly made a huge difference in the finished product. So if you have the time and resources, I would highly suggest that you make sure that you take your time with this as well if you want a bench that will function and not just be decorative, but you'll also be able to sit on it and not have to worry about getting any splinters. When we were purchasing the wood, we did notice that the entire selection at Lowe's had a lot of nicks and chips and splintering, and it was just really rough looking. So when we went to check out, we did ask for a discount, and we were able to save a little bit of money doing that. So I would highly suggest, whether you're buying from Lowe's or Home Depot, if you find imperfections in the wood that you are wanting to use, you can always ask for a discount at checkout, and they will usually do it for you. We used this Minwax gel stain in the color coffee. This was something that Whitney already had in her garage. They had used it for their kitchen chairs as well as a DIY shelf that they recently made. So that was really nice to be able to shop her home and not have any extra expense on the supplies for this bench. And not only that, but by using the same stain that they already had, it really just pulled together the aesthetic on the entire house. So it definitely went with the modern farmhouse look that we were trying to achieve in the office space, but it really complemented the rest of the rooms in the home and made everything feel and look very cohesive. Throughout this video, I have shared a few tips and tricks with you guys for how to save money, including shopping your own home first, shopping clearance, and also asking for discounts or looking for coupons when you can. But if you are wanting something more in depth and you're wanting to know the individual costs of all of the materials for our DIYs or all of the decor pieces that we chose for this space, and wanting to know how much the total cost was for this entire makeover, I will be doing a full home office tour over on my Instagram in my Instagram stories today, and I will be sharing all of that information with you guys and giving you a better look at the finished space. So I would highly encourage you to head on over there. I do have my Instagram linked in my description box. My handle is just at LOVINGLIFEMEGAN, and anytime I do one of these makeovers, I always try to share a tour in my Instagram stories on the same day, just so that you guys can have all of that information and inspiration in case you are wanting to recreate this project for yourself. You may have noticed that we are painting one complete side of the wood and then wiping away the stain and then moving on to another side, immediately wiping away the stain, and so on and so on. This helped us to achieve the look that we were going for, and the stain was already pretty dark to begin with, so we didn't want it to sit for too long. However, if you are wanting a darker look, then you would want to leave it to sit before you wipe it away, and if you are wanting a lighter look, then you might want to work in smaller sections, wiping it immediately. To put the bench together, we're just using 3-inch drywall screws, and we did choose them in a black finish to go along with all of the other black accents and darker colors for this modern farmhouse look. We are working on the legs of the bench first, and we're just building these little boxes out of the shorter 2x4 cuts, and then we will lay the longer cuts of wood on top and screw those down to these little rectangles to make the finished bench. When we first decided to do this project, I was a bit nervous, thinking that we were in over our heads and we wouldn't be able to figure it out. But this was such a quick and simple and easy project to get done, and it resulted in a beautiful new piece of handcrafted furniture that we were super proud of. So I would just encourage you guys that if you have been wanting to try any DIYs like this, or if you have been looking for pieces like this but they're just out of your budget, go ahead and just try making them. The worst that can happen is that you mess up and you have to try again, but we were really pleased with how we were able to get this all done on the very first try, so you guys might surprise yourselves as well and be a little more crafty than you think. To fasten the tops to the legs, I just used 2 screws in each side, and then I did measure about a foot in from each end and also made room for a 2-inch lip on either side. That way we could make sure that the legs of the bench were positioned evenly and symmetrically. This is what it ended up looking like, and we were so in love with it and so proud of ourselves for creating something this beautiful. But that was the last DIY we had, so now we could start with the actual room makeover. And of course, before we brought in any furniture, we wanted to go ahead and clean out this room first. So I'm just using the eCloth Flex Edge floor and wall duster to wipe down all of the walls, and then I'm going to be vacuuming the floor, and Whitney will come in behind me and mop it. I always do this with every room makeover that I do. It is so rare that you have a completely empty space, so when we do, we like to take advantage of it and give it a good deep clean. I am pretty sure that the mop that Whitney is using is called an O-Cedar mop, and she says it works really well on her vinyl plank flooring. So I will go ahead and leave that linked in the description box for you guys in case any of you are looking for a really good mop for this kind of floor in your house. Now that the room was all clean, we could start bringing in the furniture. So we're just going to move in her desk, her computer, that little bookshelf that we created, and her lamp that was in here. Now her desk is actually an old vanity that she's had since high school, but it's worked for her up until now. So we decided to go ahead and keep it just to ensure that this makeover was budget friendly. Although I do think that sometime in the future, she is going to be replacing that with something new. We also set up her printer over on that smaller bookshelf. We were a little nervous that it wouldn't fit, but it fit perfectly into that second shelf, and we were really happy about that because we were able to keep that furniture piece functional. But now she's just going to put the light bulbs into the lamp, and then I am going to put together that chair where we spray painted the legs so that it could kind of complete this little space, and then we could move on to decorating some more. While we were making the DIY bench, we also made a shelf. We just used a 1x8 and had Tim cut it down to the size that we wanted. And then we picked up those black brackets from Lowe's. They were super inexpensive, I think only like $5. They did come with hardware. However, the anchors were not working out for us. So we had to take those out and replace them with new anchors to make sure it was secure on the wall. But luckily, Tim and Whitney already had some heavy duty wall anchors on hand at their house, so we didn't have to go out to the store or spend any additional money for that. If you are planning a lot of projects like this around your house, then you should definitely make sure that you have a power drill, a hand sander, and then also plenty of nails, screws, and wall anchors just lying around just in case, because almost every project includes these items. Once we had the shelf up on the wall, I could start decorating, and we did go get some new items from Hobby Lobby, all on clearance, and one item from Walmart on clearance. But we also shopped Whitney's home and were able to find a few key pieces here that were just decor pieces she was not currently using, and they fit the space perfectly. We have a lot of black accents and clean lines because we were going for that modern farmhouse look instead of a traditional distressed farmhouse. When I had achieved the look I was going for and knew we would be using all of these pieces, I took the price stickers off of them, and then I moved on to this little bookcase that we had next to her desk. Now this space needed to be very intentional and functional. We shopped her home for quite a few of the items, including that kind of catch-all basket on the bottom shelf, and then also that little things to do whiteboard that I'm trying to arrange now. But we did pick up a few clearance pieces, like that little basket that I wanted to use to hold her camera and her batteries, and this little mailbox up here. I thought this was perfect because it had a lid so it could contain the clutter, but it is a great space to be able to put all of their mail and incoming paperwork. And then everything else on the shelf and above it were things that she already had in her home that she just wasn't using or we were repurposing for this room. I was originally going to put a farmhouse clock on this wall, but then I changed my mind and put up this whiteboard calendar that she already had. I thought that it would be more functional and give her some additional content to include in her videos once a month when she changes everything out. We brought in the bench to put under the window, and then also her kids' little kitchen set goes in here because it is kind of like a shared playroom and office space. And once we had all of the furniture in, we could finish up the decor. So she just printed off some black and white photos of her family to put into this shutter photo frame that we spray painted earlier. I thought this would be a great idea to go along with the look that we had, but also a really good reminder of what motivates her to even use this office space, which is her YouTube channel, and she has her YouTube channel as a way to bring financial security to her family. So I thought that this would be just a really sweet reminder of that, as well as something to kind of complete this space and not just leave this huge bare wall. Everything for this little window bench we actually found around her house. So we found some throw pillows that she wasn't using, a blanket, and then a little basket where we ended up putting some of her kids' books. We wanted this bench to be a place that she could sit when she wanted to read to them or play with them, or if she just needed a little bit of a change of scenery from sitting at her desk, but also somewhere that her kids could enjoy as well, since their playroom is also in here. I think it turned out absolutely amazing, and since creating this space for her, I totally want to do one of these benches in my own house. I'm thinking in my living room in the entryway. I will probably put that in a video coming up. Okay, this was the finishing touch for this space, and now I'm ready to show you the final reveal. But before I do that, I just wanted to show you a couple of before shots of this room to remind you of what it looked like before the makeover. Here is what the space looks like now. We have kind of a separated area for Whitney's office space, and it turned out amazing. We both absolutely love it. The shelf came out perfect. The bookcase worked for exactly what we wanted it to, and we were both just really happy with what we were able to create here on such a small budget. We were just as happy with what we were able to create on the other side of this room. We felt like we had two separate spaces here, her kids' play area and her work area, but everything was still cohesive and it all flowed together perfectly. But that is everything for today's DIY home office makeover on a budget. I hope that you were able to get a ton of great ideas. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel if you aren't already, and check out the links in my description box to head on over to Whitney's channel and subscribe to her as well. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you all in the next one.